There we go.
Hey, welcome to the Story Studio podcast. So today we wanted to talk about sort of what works for characters and what doesn't, what works and what doesn't work. Basically, some of our character kind of favorite moments. And I mean, there's this kind of code with characters where just obeying what the character would naturally do. And sometimes you'll see storytellers try and shoehorn a character into maybe a direction that they shouldn't, or you start to see those choices where, okay, I see what they were trying to do and it was just stupid and it ran counter to maybe sense or what the viewers or readers or listeners would expect. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, Dave!
Dave is so happy as always.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Sean wanted to pitch something for today for Dave, a show that Dave would light up about. So here you go. Look at him. Look at him.
This is me lit up.
Wow. So Dave, all that work to try to get that for you, and nothing. What? Okay. So what should we do? Should we do the dead baby comedy hour? Would that just lighten you up, and you can talk about that for half an hour? We should try that, Johnny. We should try to see if Dave can stay up and buoyant for a half hour of just the most ridiculous thing.
No, my gears were spinning for the other topic first, and then you started with this one, and this is what I have nothing for.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I think Sean might be done with the necessity for vamping, so we'll talk. He'll chime in. Dave always chimes in.
Yeah, it takes a while for the caffeine to lubricate the brain pan.
Dave's like that construct that you see in whenever they want to show like a machine that humans are powering through sheer force of will. They have a bunch of people around a wooden wheel and they're all shoving it and the gears are turning, cogs are turning. Well, that's what I imagine Dave's mind is like.
I have a hamster wheel, but my hamster, instead of running, is doing heroin and eating Oreos. So things are shut down right now.
All right. Well, that's the topic. That's the topic of today: heroin and Oreos. So
that sounds like a new podcast. Actually.
Didn't we do that one already?
I think we kind of did. Well, you guys will start to notice that as we're moving more and more toward pure story at Sterling and Stone, and moving more and more to pure story in the podcast. I mean, we always talked about story in the self-publishing podcast in the earlier days of Story Studio. But as we move more and more toward just story, you're going to notice this and worst show ever, unfortunately, starting to blend a little bit. So we're probably going to get some ridiculous Dave stories because we're looser. We're having more fun. Heroin and Oreos is basically where I'm going with this. So you haven't told the heroin story on this one, if you want to go ahead and all right. Yeah, so shifting topics to something that's maybe quasi-relevant. I mean, not to put you on the spot here, Dave, but are there times that you've seen, do you have any favorite / least favorite times that you've seen in a book, in a TV show, in a movie, you've seen a character choice that you're just like, what the hell? That doesn't make any sense, but it's something that you can really feel the iron fist of the creator trying to make something happen?
I can't give a good example for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first season, but the first season...
You had a lot to say about that when it came out, though.
Yeah, but I purged it from my memory, so... they course corrected, though, so... But I remember the beginning, it was just like everybody was cardboard characters. So that's actually an example of people getting it right. Maybe Heroes. Heroes started off good and then just became stupid as hell over time.
But was that a character thing, or was that because, I mean, it's the moment they went to feudal Japan, it could have gone either way. Either this show got really awesome or really stupid. And unfortunately, it was really stupid. But I mean, it started with the finale of the first season, I thought, where there was there was a brewing, right? This really, really big thing was going to happen. Save the cheerleader, save the world. And now we have this anticlimax. I don't even remember the last.
I don't either. But I remember thinking that this show had a clear direction. Now, I mean, we're deviating, so we want to bring it back to character rather than plot. But I remember it having this clear trajectory of save the cheerleader. There's a sense of destiny, and Siler was working in the background. And then I remember going, Oh, so now they're just going to talk about them doing cool stuff, and it
They
doesn't
don't
really
know
have a
what they're
through line.
doing. Like, that's what we got to that finale, and it really felt like they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a plan here.
Doesn't
And
it feel a
then,
little like a dog chasing a car and then it finally catches it? I get the feeling that somebody, like they wrote the first season and they're like, oh shit, it got picked up. Well, I don't know what to do. This might only be a one season
oh,
show.
no, I think that they wrote the first few episodes, and then we're just like staying ahead of it. And I think that when they wrote, see, I didn't know this at the time, but now we could totally armchair quarterback this shit because we've written a lot of stories. And I have a feeling that when they wrote Save the Cheerleader, Save the World, that sounded awesome in the writer's room, and they didn't really know what it meant. And so they continued to do that, and it was great. And there really was a lot of suspense. And like it was mystery box storytelling. If you guys remember, this came out right after the first year of Lost. So mystery box storytelling was like, boom, bitches, here it is. And Hero did that really well during its first season, but then it just didn't know where to go. And because it didn't know where to go, we lost our way. So I don't think that is a character thing, because I think the characters just struggled. You know, Peter Petrelli was like, what fucking show am I in all of a sudden? So,
Well, I felt like they made Sylar this incredibly scary person, and then he became popular, and they changed him, and they tried to turn him into an anti-hero, but he
that's exactly where we're going. So
never worked.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a
I was
perfect
thinking the
example.
same thing. He had this real ominous presence in the first season.
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking to someone just last night actually, about the Jane Lynch character in Glee, and it was pretty much the same thing. If you look at the first season of Glee, did you watch Glee, Dave? I remember you putting a post about shows you were excited about before it came out, and Glee.
Wait. Hold on. I just like to pause a second and make sure that we're talking about the same Dave. So there was a show called Glee that was a musical about peppy, happy people, and you think that Dave put it on a list of shows he was dying to see?
That he was interested in the new fall lineup. I'm
Dave
pretty
Wright.
sure.
Dave Wright.
No, I did see it. I thought it was amusing, but it wasn't my thing. Because of the music mostly.
Do you remember it was called Glee? What did you think? What did you think?
Do you remember Dwight's assessment of Glee? He said, if you're going to choose an emotion, why Glee? No, thirst.
Okay, so in Glee, Jane Lynch is she's the head of the
she was my favorite character by far.
Of course she was. So she's awesome. She's basically the villain for the first season, but then she was popular, so they made her likable, and it derailed the show because for the whole second season it didn't have an antagonist. It didn't.
Okay, hold on, back up, because this is the story studio. In what ways did they make her likable? What did they do to make her likable?
Well, they made her human. They gave her a disabled daughter, which immediately humanized her, and because you saw her always being brusque and just kind of, I mean, she was there to destroy the Glee Club, like take away their funding. She was their ultimate foe, and so that was a really great antagonistic force. But once you see that she's a human, and she goes home and she takes care of her daughter, and she loves her daughter, and she struggles with her daughter, it's pretty hard to hate her. And you kind of needed to hate her. You could hate her in a Louis De Palma, wow, that guy's an asshole, but at least he's making me laugh kind of way. But, Louis De Palma was never humanized in quite that way. So
From Taxi,
right. So I think that's one of those situations where you do want to humanize your characters a little bit, because like we always say, around these parts, no bad guy is the villain in their own story, right? So Jane Lynch is, she's the good guy in her story. She's making her cheerleader squad the best in the world. Like, that's her job. And anything that stands in the way of that is an impediment to her dream, her vision, her truth. But you do want the viewer to, even if they're laughing with that person, you don't want them siding with that person. And they made it easy to side with Jane Lynch. So that's kind of a poor character choice, I think.
I think one series that it's one of those things, like it's a show. It was a comfort comedy show. Like, it used to be like I used to watch Everybody Loves Raymond and King of Queens, and I think Everybody Loves Raymond still holds up. King of Queens, I haven't watched in a while, but that show started off with, a married couple, and it was just stupid, simple fun. But as the show progressed, the two characters just became mean, like mean spirit, and not even in a funny. I mean, done well, that could be funny. I mean, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Well, I don't know if that's a good example of mean, but I mean. It just became these characters just seemed spiteful and just like they hated each other. Maybe the actors did, I don't know. But as the show went on, it's like it turned from this simple, funny pleasure to just these people are just horrible fucking people. And it's not like Always Sunny where that's part of the joke and it's hilarious and you love it. It's just these people you liked, they were nice, decent people, and it became like the joke became more important than the characters. And I get, like, if something goes 10 seasons, it's 10 seasons or whatever it did. It's hard to maintain a character arc, but I don't know. I just really feel it went off the rails. And by the end of the show, I did not like them at all.
Well, so the thing about long-running TV shows, and especially comedies, is that not everybody needs a character arc. So in Friends, Ross and Rachel needed an arc like that, especially that couple, that pairing needed an arc. And then Monica and Chandler, like you do need, I mean, Friends ran for 10 years. So that
I hated this so much.
But this is one that I've mentioned a few times, and I actually mentioned it on the call that Sean was mentioning earlier, is there was a choice in like season 7, 8, I don't remember, it was kind of far in, where they decided, okay, Joey hasn't developed enough. Now, Joey is an excellent just kind of rudder for Friends. He's unchanging. He refers to when he's giving the tour of his apartment, that's where the pizza is and that's where I keep the napkin. So it's just like, he's just a consummate slob, and like and it took him a while. Like in the first episodes, he's chopping garlic and stuff, and that went away. Like, no, Joey orders pizza. Joey likes sandwiches. But when they decided, okay, he needs an arc, so let's have I
always forget when he's making the sauce in the first season.
You watch it back again, and you're like, what? This isn't Joey. He's doing
because by episode or by season 7, he's getting donuts that he left from a season before off top of the fridge, right?
Right, like they decided to have him be real Italian, where do you remember when he's talking to his dad, and the peacemaking gesture is he takes the spoon and like holds it out for his dad to try the sauce. It's so Italian.
Of course. It's ridiculous.
But the part that I hate is where they decided that they were going to have him have a crush on Rachel. Yes. Especially the one episode that it's like they're in the restaurant and it's supposed to be like heart-wrenching and uncomfortable because they're friends and they don't want to break up as friends, but now there's this awkward thing between them. And I just remember thinking that was really, really dumb because Joey is the character who's not supposed to change. Like his character is unmoving. Whereas the others, but even like the characters who are supposed to have arcs, like Ross and Rachel, they don't really grow much. They just have this long thing that continues. You don't see a lot of character development usually in a show like that.
It's kind of like comic strips. Comic strips in the newspaper. Typically characters don't grow. They're not supposed to grow. At least in the comic ones. And it's sort of providing again, use that word comfort, a daily comfort for people that's just they don't want to, they just want to tune out the world. They want to have a laugh. They don't want this overly complex thing. And I think a lot of sitcoms serve that purpose. And you can have great writing and great characterization, character arcs and all that in a sitcom, but you have to know what you're doing, and Friends is not that sitcom at all, and for them to do it, I think another show that really lost its way because of characters that just turned from likable to hateable, Weeds.
Weeds has some terrible character shit.
Yeah, that is a show you loved in the beginning, and then over time you're like, who are these people? Who's writing these characters?
Well, Mary Louise Parker, I don't remember her character name. Nancy. She became so unlikable. She became so unlikable. So contrast her with Frank from Shameless, who does heinous shit. Like, I won't list him in case you haven't watched Shameless, but let's just say that there's some real moments where you're like, okay, dude, you went too far this time. Like these are lines you don't cross.
Too.
But yet he always kicks his way back in, and somehow it still works. Sometimes despite like literally letting people die, it's fine. But you contrast that with Weeds, and I just remember going, oh wow, I'm not on this character's side anymore. There's nothing I can get behind. She doesn't. She got real cold. Do you remember when she and Andy finally hooked up, just like once, and it was just this real like broken thing that didn't even have the emotional resonance it was supposed to have, because
and he started off as an asshole, and you came to like him way more than her.
Can we talk about the that series' best line? Because it is worth reading.
Go ahead. I know you enjoy it so much.
It's so good. All right. So Andy and I forget the two characters' names actually, but they're sitting on the coffee table, and the maid walks in and they're arguing about that the taint, and they're arguing about whether
the one guy called it the runway or something like that.
Right, the taint or the runway. And so the maid comes in and Andy says, "Hey, what do you call that thing between the dick and the asshole?" And she says, "The coffee table."
That was good. That was like episode 1 or 2.
That's when I knew I loved that show. But then it got stupid.
Well, I mean, Weeds did a lot of what Breaking Bad did, just poorly. So Breaking Bad,
right.
You had a character in Walter White who was getting worse and worse, objectively, more and more criminal, and yet you were always on his side. Like, he was consistent. He was in it for himself. It was his power thing. But with Nancy,
were you always on his side?
I was on his side most of the time. Well, okay, not on his side. On his side is wrong, but rooting for him in a shameful way, maybe. Like, I was always wanted him to win, let's say. I got to the point where I didn't want Nancy to win.
I think Vince Gilligan has said, we actively tried to make you not like him, and I think the scene where he let Jesse's girlfriend, spoiler alert, where he let Jesse's girlfriend die from a heroin overdose as he's standing in a room.
It's pretty hard to come back from.
Yeah, a lot of people I talk to that have watched the show since, they mark that as a point where they could not like him anymore, and they were rooting against him. But I think having Jesse there, who you did like, you wanted Walter to succeed only because you didn't want Jesse to fall as well.
Well, I guess I would say that you were consistently fascinated by Walter. Maybe that's a better way to look at it. Nancy just became hateable to me in a very different way.
Yeah. I didn't want Walter to die at the end, because I felt like to me, motivation is everything with people and characters, and the motivation he had to begin with started off as noble, and even though he was doing all these horrible things, like, the original motivation was good, and he just got in over his head. And I know at some point he could have stopped. He was culpable for all the horrible things he did, but there's still that moment that I feel is like anchored with you, where you did root for him, and I never rooted against him. I did want him to stop. I didn't want him to die. I don't know if I wanted him to get caught or not. I don't remember. But I think when all these good people started to die, especially my favorite character of all time on the fucking show,
Mike.
when Mike died, that was the end, right? That, like, I wanted Mike to have killed Walter at that
This show will feature some spoilers for
yes,
retroactively.
Well, I did say spoilers for one thing, so I assume anyone that hadn't seen Jane die, then they would already checked out. Anyway.
Yeah. So another one of my favorites, and this was actually, Sean's going to guess what I'm going to say very quickly if he hasn't already, this is one where I was actually warned, in season whatever of a show.
I thought you were going to go angry, so this isn't what I thought at all.
Well, I have another one. I have a few here written down, but no, this was Parenthood, and there was one season where...
Yes.
I think it was season 5, because I think there were 6 seasons, and they were
5, yes.
Right. So the way that Parenthood was going to go is they were going to end after season 4. So
they didn't know. Like, it was one of those things where the show was kind of like tapered off, and maybe they were going to get a renewal, maybe not.
But season 4 is a decisive ending. Like if it had ended there, like noble effort, guys, because I never would have wanted another episode because you concluded it so nicely for me. Like
But
everything was wrapped up.
Felt obligated to watch more.
Right. And so what they wanted to do was to stir the pot in some way. And so they had to come up, spoiler alert for Parenthood. So they wanted to, because Dave's right on Parenthood. I'm going to go for, it's going to take a little while, Dave. All right. I'll wave him back in later. This is going to take a little while. So if you're going to go off for a while, go get some coffee or something. So the, Joel and who's his wife? I don't remember. Joel and Joel's wife. Julia. Yes. And they've been this sweet couple all along. He's the best family man on the show. Honestly, I would say by far.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Adam.
Well, Adam's great, but he like stays home when he needs to. It's not just that he's a great family man; it's that he totally takes care of her and does everything to support her career. And he always puts his family first in every single way. He comes second. Right,
and then in season 4, still going, Dave, still going. No, I'm waving you off. Yes. So in season 4. There's a flirtation, if I'm remembering this right. Julia has some sort of flirtation with another guy, who is actually rolling from the office. By the way. Yes. So first of all, I don't even believe that, but okay. And then nothing happens. It's just a mild flirtation, and then he gets so mad that he then leaves her. And you're like, okay, no, I'm sorry, I don't even believe that for a second. And it goes on for the. I think it goes through the season. Like I think it's until season 6 is when they finally get back together. And
it might be the very, very end of
season 5.
Yeah, but it's still just a ridiculous amount of time.
It's a ridiculous amount of time, and you just keep watching going, okay, you're being so incredibly unreasonable because you don't understand the character's decision. If you understand it, then okay, they can do all sorts of crazy shit. But you're just watching it go, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Horribly inconsistent, which I think you should talk about your favorite one of all time because that is so inconsistent.
All right. So Dave, you can come back. Yeah. Okay. So it's safe to come. I feel like we just put him in an isolation booth in a like a game show. All right, Dave, for $15,000.
Where does your wife like Whoopi?
Whoopi, was it? What was it? Was it the
match
game
or the dating game?
The newlywed game. Yeah,
all the 70s shows
in the butt. So anyway, yeah, my favorite of all time is it's actually similar to the Joey one, so it might feel like an anticlimax, but in my opinion, How I Met Your Mother made some egregious mistakes after a few great seasons. But the one that I wanted to mention specifically was when they decided to humanize Barney, who's this like player ladies man. This obviously spoilers for this too. And they have him. Did they actually date for a little while? He and Robin,
yes.
Who is supposed to be Ted's love interest, like the main arc of the entire show, which they totally fucked up. Besides this point, and so suddenly you have Barney like yearning and stuff, and it ruined the character for the rest of the time.
So stupid.
And I think that those character decisions are born out of desperation, right? It's like we need to do something. How many seasons did that show run for?
I think many.
10. I think it went all like as long as Friends.
Yeah,
and
which is just kind of ridiculous.
The shitty thing is, and I won't say what the ending is, but I mean they make you. I mean the whole show is about how he met this person, and you think it's going to be Robin the entire time, and it's not. And then what they did with the person it was, which is so dumb as shit ever.
So stupid.
I mean, you would think I wrote that as a joke.
It was like last season. We got like 3 episodes left. Okay, here she is. Wait, she's dead.
Spoiler.
Wow,
so I spoiler.
We should just call this show the spoiler show. Really.
I also like that there was absolutely no reason for her to die other than to give Ted permission, I suppose, to be with Robin, but they didn't need to do that.
It was the laziest writing ever.
They might as well have said their mother died on the way to her home planet and just a still screen.
You know what the shame is? There was a show that was on before How I Met Your Mother, and I forget the name of it. It starred Jason Ritter, and I think Kristen Ritter might have been in it too. I don't even know if they're related. That played Jane. but it was a show that I thought was really good, and it got canceled after one season, and then they brought in How I Met Your Mother, and I always thought the other show was better.
I liked How I Met Your Mother for a season or
I did like
two or
it.
three. Like it was good for a while.
I thought the first 4 seasons were good. And you know what's funny is I know that my children would really like the first 4 seasons, but I don't want to start them.
They're going to want to watch the whole thing.
Because they want to watch the whole thing, and they won't believe me that it's...
Just spoil it. Just say, at the end, it's shit.
Yes, but I told them that about Friends, that the final seasons weren't as good. I told them that about The Office, that they weren't as good, because it's true for both of those shows.
Well, once
The
Michael Scott is gone, I mean, that The Office was circling the drain.
Well, right, but it was still so much better than what's going on with
oh, for sure. How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother. So like those are the litmus. And at least The Office has a great finale. You know, it does circle the drain for a few seasons. It's, not what it was. But that finale is really good. It's legit. It's a good finale.
You know what shows never overstay their welcome? Anything on BBC or basically like The Office UK was only a couple seasons.
Well, that's because they only do like 1 season on anything, and then they're just done.
Right, and the IT Crowd, which I think is absolutely hysterical, only 4 seasons. Although the last season I didn't enjoy as much as particularly the second one, but still, I mean, they do not overstay their welcome. They get out the door before you have a chance to even fall in love.
Can you guys think of any examples of right character decisions that must have felt hard in the writer's room? Like it's not something that would even be good for the...
Oh, that's a good question.
Breaking Bad?
Yeah, that's actually a great example. The one that came to mind for me, and this is, I don't have a specific event, and I think I mentioned this character a little while ago, so is... a character like Janice on The Sopranos, where you're like, everybody's gonna fucking hate this person. She's just a drain, but that's the right decision. That character constantly made choices that would have been infuriating to anyone, and it would have been tempting probably to be like, well, let's redeem her a little bit, or let's have a victory. Well, no, you never get it, or she can't die. That's the other thing. Spoiler for that. You keep waiting for Janice to get into trouble where she gets killed, and she doesn't. So I think that's being true.
Let's talk about Sopranos for a second, because that show was filled with people who you didn't really like, but you liked watching them, and they
like his mother.
Oh yeah, she was horrible, but they never backed off, right? They never. I mean, to my knowledge, did they ever make Livia sympathetic at all?
No, not even when she was dying.
Right. Right. And then I remember feeling a little bit conflicted, because part of me felt like I should, because Tony was so conflicted, and you want him to feel something for his mother, but like she's such a monster that you just kind of make excuses.
Well, he did just a little bit, and then if I remember this right, I might be remembering this wrong, because I think he was talking to Melfi about it, and but he was like mad at himself for having any weakness at all because she was such a bitch. But he was like, well, she was my mother, and
Yeah, I think that's one of the first shows that really had a main character that you were not supposed to like, and you did anyway, like a true anti-hero.
Do you mean Tony?
Done well.
You mean
Tony, yeah.
Yeah, now see, that's actually a good an example of a show that managed to evolve. So you were talking about the Jane Lynch decision to make her less of a villain and humanize her, and then it was like, well, that was born out of desperation because they needed to do something. But oh shit, what were we just talking about? I had a really good example there, and I can't remember.
Sopranos.
Oh yeah, so just the evolution of that show, they took it in directions that weren't contrary to that. Like they let Tony continue to be a villain who you understood his side, but then they drew out Melfi, right? Like his psychiatrist. And they had her going to her own psychiatrist and seeing her own neuroses and dealing with her sessions with Tony. She had to get out with her guy. And I thought that those were additions rather than like cute gimmicks or wrong choices.
Another show that I think made difficult choices, but made them pay off, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And I won't spoil Better Call Saul because I feel like a lot of people haven't really seen the most recent
Yeah, you
or
know
any-
what? You don't have to ruin it, Dave. But you can talk a little bit about it because Better Call Saul is the master. I mean, I think Vince Gilligan is the master. But as good as Breaking Bad was at it, I think that Better Call Saul is even better at backstory, at
Yes.
giving us context to who people are and why they behave the way that they behave. And so I think it's the best example of not ever selling out your characters. And especially because that show has a lot of hard work to do, because it has to it basically has to account for the Breaking Bad timeline. And I'm watching Better Call Saul live right now, and I think I'm on season 4 of Breaking Bad for the second time. So I am looking for those intersections, and it's kind of amazing how well they've got the Saul character, where they're completely adding to him, changing things, but it all works as evolution and understanding, and it doesn't change who we felt like he was when we met him.
And here's the funny thing about Saul as a character. He wasn't supposed to be this great character. He just brought in mostly for comic relief, if I remember correctly. And when they announced they were going to do a spinoff of this show, they didn't even know what they were going to do yet. They were thinking about making it straight up comedy, like a half-hour comedy.
You were so mad. I was like, that sounds awesome to me.
No, I thought it was horrible. And I'm glad they didn't go that route. And also, like, how timelines match up and that stuff you're saying, they don't even know what they're doing. They're making shit up as they go. They don't have this grand architectural plan of what happened, the mythology. They don't even remember all of it. They are making shit up as they go along and making it fit and making it work, and it's pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right. Well, so let's wrap up our little character study today, and who knows what we'll do. I know what we're going to do next, but I don't know if it's the next episode that's going to air, so I don't want to fuck up my own continuity. So thanks for listening to the Story Studio podcast, and we'll see you next
know that I will never change.
Dave will never change.
No, that's not planning on it.
Dave is Joe.
Consistent. Peace out.
Bye.